the physical world isn't the only world we live in, because it's also obvious that we live in a spiritual world, a world of ideas. Well, as mankind was beginning to figure out, hey, what are we doing here? What's going on? They created science and philosophy, and they created religion. In other words, there were things that science, that the physical stuff, wouldn't answer. Because, well, why does the sun come up in the east and then go down in the west and stay for, a bunch of hours? And why do the tides do what they do? And why do things grow? And why do things die? And why are some years really bad with the crops and other years pretty good? And just what's going on? And why are all those other people doing what they're doing? And who are they? And, so what's going on? And mankind had to get answers to those questions. Now, as science came along, it began to answer things like why the sun came up and went down and all that, and why the tides did what they did, and fire and other things, lightning and rain and storms and all. Science began to answer those. So there were fewer and fewer things going on that religion had to answer. But there were still things going on like death. What happens after you die? Oh, and what is good? What is it that makes for happiness? What is it that makes this world a better place in which to be, if indeed it can make the world a better place? And so religion, created by man, began to try to answer those age-old questions, death and what happens after death being a key one, and how, if something happens after death, how do you make that a good thing? What's going on? And so mankind had folks who guessed at those things. They looked at the world and all the evidence they could see, and they drew conclusions about this stuff. And those conclusions began to get embodied in this thing called religion. And each continent ended up kind of with a main religion. And they were all different to some extent, but the same to another extent, because they were all working from the nature that the people who founded those religions were seeing in the world around them. So there was a lot of sameness, and yet there were some differences. But none of them really knew, because none of them had been able to pierce death and come back and say, hey, this is what's going on. So mankind and mankind's religions were all guesses. But God didn't have to guess, because he created it all. And God has a plan for your success. And we're here to help you work it.